Yes. Hello, you're listening to Men, Family, and Education Under Fire with Dr. Horace Williams on the Go radio station, powering the voice of community and change. Well, good afternoon and welcome again to another exciting show on Men, Family, and Education Under Fire. We're going to continue our series entitled Building Trust in Relationships. But because we are so vested in our education of our students, today we're going to try to understand how to build a trusting relationship with your child's school. So tonight the show's title is, again, Building Trusting Relationships with Your Child's School. Now, we know school is just now starting, and I'm going to say my disclaimer as we get started. We're not placing blame. We're just taking more responsibility. That's what I want us to do. Just take more responsibility. Now, this show is going to talk directly to parents. It's going to include some of the teachers, guardians, and those who have school-aged children that just started school. So I want you to pay particular attention to some of the tips and techniques that we're going to discuss tonight as we look forward to this new school year starting. First of all, how do we build a trusting relationship with our children's school? Number one, and I want you to get a pencil, write some of this stuff down as we go through it. Number one, very important, parents, get to know your child's principal. Let's start there. Get to know them on a first name basis. Don't be one of those parents that wait till something happens and the principal calls you up or somebody from the office calls you. You go in and get to know your child's principal. Ask the principal some questions. Number one, Mr. and Mrs. Principal, what are your educational goals for my child this year? And you listen. Don't answer the question before the individual gets a chance to answer. You ask that question. What are the educational goals? Okay, you listen to those goals and then take notes. Bring a pad and paper with you. You take notes. Ask the principal about the best teachers. How do you retain good, skillful teachers in this school? What have you done to retain the teachers, and who are they? What grades are these teachers currently teaching in? Is it first through fifth? If you are an elementary school person, middle school could be 6th through 9th in some cases, or high school 9th through 12th. But these are very important questions that you must ask the principal, because a lot of times parents, we wait to the last minute to get to build these relationships. So all this is leading up to relationship building. After you talk to the principal, get to know some of your students' teachers. As a matter of fact, introduce yourself. Make it a point of going or setting up an appointment just to talk with them, to converse with them. And again, be prepared to ask them some good questions. For an example, ask them what college they graduated from. Ask them why did they decide to teach English. What you want to do here with this conversation is build a relationship, right? You want to get to know if they're organized or not. You want to know if you are sending your child to a school or a teacher that is well organized. And prepared teachers are always organized. You can look in their room. You can go to their room and see what we used to call print-rich material. Is it on the walls? Is there something to motivate the kids? Is the teacher at the door greeting the children or the students when they come to class? So parents, there's some things that we have to do to build this great relationship. Does the teacher engage the student, upon entering the classroom? Is there any signs that the teacher is setting the students up to win? But again, we are looking to build trusting relationships with our schools, because parents, we have to partner. It's a partnership. When you send your child to a public school or private school, charter school, you are looking, or you are extending your family to this school. But it's not all on the school. Parents, we have a responsibility as well. And so part of that is to build this team. So again, how do we continue to build these trust and relationships? So after you've introduced yourself to the principal, you've made a meeting, and I'm going to say set a meeting. Sometimes, principals are busy, teachers are busy, they're teaching class. So in terms of etiquette, be willing to make an appointment, and follow up on that appointment, and make sure that you can be available. Just don't set the appointment for the sake of setting an appointment. I want you to be able to show up, because I want to tell you this, parents, our young people are much smarter, and you're going to hear me say this over and over again. Our young people are much smarter than what's indicated on state exams, what's indicated on certain test dates. But as a family, we have to stick together and we have to support them. Now, in this relationship with the school, mom, parents, dad, guardians, grandparents, whoever you may be, you must be ready to send the kids to school prepared to learn. That means in some cases, get them up on time, right? Prepare them the night before. Also, be willing to have breakfast ready. And in some cases, if you can't have breakfast ready, most schools give students breakfast in the morning. Find out what time that breakfast hour is. Make sure that your child is there for breakfast. Breakfast is a very important meal of the day, especially for our students going to public schools and any school, as a matter of fact, because that sets them up. They need that energy. But let's talk about getting to know the teachers and the administrators of a school that you're sending your kid to. Now, I've talked in the past on some of my past shows about getting to know the whole school as a community, right? So there's a lot of professionals that run a school, not only the principal, but you have staff members. You have something that we may call wraparound service providers. If your student is in need of resources, there could be parapros that your student becomes in contact with on a daily basis. There could be folks that works in the engineering department of a school. Those are the individuals that keep the heat going in the winter and the air conditioning if you're blessed enough to have air conditioning in the summer. So it's a community of folks. You need to get to know these folks. Let them see you as the parent. Okay, you just don't show up when things go wrong, and let's just talk about that, because a lot of times parents, I know you get a bold rap on that, and I've seen it working in public schools, where the parents aren't called or you don't hear from the school until something goes wrong. Right? Then they call you and you're like, wait a minute, you should have told me that 2 weeks ago. If he or she was acting in this manner, why don't I know? So what we want to do is take a progressive stance. We want to take a position that says, you don't have to wait till something goes wrong to contact me. This is a team. We're in this together. So I want to hear the good, the bad, and the indifference as a parent. And then, parent, if you really want to put a cherry on top of this cake, what you want to do is see if you can volunteer some of your time at your child's school. Not only will that make your child feel special, but the school will look at you as a valuable part of what they're trying to do at the school. And another thing I want to mention as it relates to this new school year kicking off and getting started, parents, let's set goals for our kids, academic goals. I don't care how many young folks that you have going to a school. I want you to take the time out to set an academic goal for them. Now, the importance of setting academic goals for your child is that now you have given them something to aspire to. You just don't get up and go to school, get out the house. No, you are going to school for a reason. You are going to school to do the best that you can, yes, but you are going to school because as a family, we have expectations. So you set academic goals, and I want you to they have to be realistic. Okay, now, if your student right now is not currently operating at a C level, a 2.0 level, or 2.5, don't set a goal to say, okay, in the next 8 weeks, I want you to be a 4.0 student. It's unrealistic. Let's make some realistic goals. If your student is operating at a 2.5, we want to see them at a 3.0. If your student is operating at a 3.0, the goal should be a 3.5. If your student is operating at a 3.5, your goal this year to take it to the top of 4.0. Now, why are we talking about this, Dr. Williams? Because, parents, this is the secret. Being intelligent, being smart is the new currency. That will pay off for your child. If you allow your child the courtesy and respect to support them in their academic endeavors, guess what will happen? It'll pay off for them in the long run. How? Well, free college tuition, merit scholarships. It's so many things that we will create when we start to teach that being smart is the new currency. You get paid for being smart. They pay smart people. And that's what we want our kids to do. Now, back on the topic, how do we build these trust and relationships? So you went in, you talked with the principal, you got a chance to meet the teacher. Now you're showing your child that not only that you are invested in their success, but you're on the same team. So now what that's going to do for the child is say, wow, you know, my mom and dad or my grandmom and granddad or whoever my guardian came in and talked with the teacher, I better be on my P's and Q's. And the other thing about that is the child becomes more aware that education is being valued. I'm going to drop the pencil on that one. We must teach our children that education has a value. I don't like to hear students tell me, oh, college ain't for me. Well, what's for you then if college not for you? Hard work? What you going to do? And I ain't saying everybody has to go to college, but you have to get a basic understanding of how to teach yourself. And when a person can teach him or herself, they can learn anything. And so basic education starts there. But parents, what we want to do is make sure as a parent that you are talking up education in your household. You are letting kids know that, hey, this is what you got to do. You must become educated. You're in America. We must let our kids know that education has value. We must let our institutions know that we value what they're trying to do. And also, parents, talking about the teachers. When the teacher calls you, please be polite to the teachers. Don't always take the student side, hear the teacher out, and be on the same team. You should be listening to not only what your student may have may not done right or wrong, but where are they showing improvement? Where do we go from this point forward? Okay, and I realize that some things may happen, but parents, you want to find out, what can I do to make my student a better student? Teacher, how can you help me make my student a better student? Because you're sending them to school every day. Every day they're going to school. But let me tell you some things, parents, about teachers and how to identify great teachers. Number one, great teachers are prepared and organized, right? They're in their classrooms early, ready to teach. They're not running in at the last moment. They present lesson plans in a clear and structured way. So some of the things, parents, you want to look for when you go to visit your child's school and talking with the teachers, you want to notice how they are preparing their classroom or how they're preparing the class to be taught that day. You also want to know, if you have some time, not only on the first time you get to meet them, spend some time in that class, 10, 15 minutes at the most. You want to notice if the teacher is engaging the students, or if he's just teaching to him or herself. That means, are they asking open-end questions or closed-end questions? Are they asking the students to be involved? Are they asking the students' opinions? Are they asking them what they did? Or are they just dictating the whole class? Because it has to be a two-way street. Okay? Another great thing that teachers, strong teachers have, they have relationships with their students. Now, I'm not saying that they have to be buddy-buddy, but you should be able to tell when your student walks into a classroom, the way they're greeted, the way they talk, the way they respond to a teacher, if they're being treated what I call with equity. Didn't say fair, because what's fair to you ain't fair to me. I like to use the word equity or equitable. I want you to treat me with the same respect and responsibility that you're treating other students. And that's what you should look for. One of the things you should look for when you go to visit your class or talk to your student's teacher. Great teachers are masters of their subject. Now, how do you know when the teacher has mastered his and her subject, when you're just sitting there for 15 or 20 minutes? Number one, they have an excitement about it. When you like what you're doing, it's exciting. It's not a job, and you should be able to tell if the math teacher is just going through the motions. 2 + 2 is 4. 4 + 4 is 8. Or the teacher's like, how many wheels is on a common car? How many tires? 4. Okay, so if we have 2 cars, how many tires do we have? 8. There you go. That's the type of excitement that teachers should be bringing to the classroom, because we know that all students don't learn the same way. But teachers are trained to figure out what's the best way to get their subject matter over to the students. Matter of fact, I don't necessarily call it teaching. I call it transferring of knowledge, because just because I know something and I'm pretty good at it doesn't mean that I could teach it. So there has to be some type of conveyance. I have to be able to convey this knowledge to those that are listening. And every day that you send your kids to school, they should be listening. Now, great teachers, this is great teaching 101. Great teachers communicate with parents. They don't just call you when things go wrong. They call you when things are going right. They call you when they want your support for something. They call you to let you know parent-teacher conference is coming up. They call you to be chauffeurs or maybe chaperones for trips. So they keep you engaged. And parents, and I know for some of you that are already doing it, kudos to you. Thumbs up, keep up the good job. I'm preaching to the choir, and I'm going to say to you, if you're already doing it, great job. If it don't apply, let it fly. But some of the parents, I know you're out there working, you can't get to the school because you work during that day. But the deal is, you look at your child as an investment. You have to be aware of what's going on with your investment. So on your day off, or on a day that you can get up to school after school when you're not so tired maybe, plan a day to come up to the school just to make your presence felt. Now, some of the other things about that. Teachers that call home, they don't hesitate. They want to call home before a problem festers, before it gets too deep. And parents, that's why this is where you come in. You have to be very open-minded. Don't go off on the teacher. Don't be like, here you go again. Here she go. Here he go. No, be able to listen, because at the end of the day, you have another person that's helping to teach your child. Okay? Now, in some cases, parents, and I'm going to say this because a lot of time teachers get a bad rap because they're trying to do the right thing. But then there's some good teachers that get overlooked. So I want to throw a little kudos out to those good teachers that are doing a quality job, that are teaching kids, that care for the kids. And it's not only that they care for them, but they are concerned about their welfare, their safety, night and day. They take funds out of their pocket to make the learning experience of your child a pleasant one. So in some cases, those teachers may not be well received in the school setting. So how do you keep qualified teachers at your school? People talk about a teacher shortage, and I agree. Yeah, there is a good teacher shortage. Now, we can get a substitute to come in and sit at the desk, take attendance, but there's nothing like a teacher that's going to sit there and build a relationship with your child, because teaching is all about relationship building. Once the relationship is formed, a good teacher can teach a student anything. That's the key. But parents, you have to trust that teacher. You have to trust the process. So that's why we're talking about building a trusting relationship with your child's school. Don't leave everything up to the school. Well, they went to school, didn't they? Well, school actually starts from the time your child leaves their home in the morning. You should be giving your child some do's and don'ts. Okay, today when you go to school, I want you to keep your hands to yourself. Now, if somebody hits you, you get in conflict, you ain't got to go sock them back. Tell the teacher first. Now, then if the teacher don't respond, you have a right to protect yourself. But you don't send them out there, go bust them in the mouth. No, we're not going to learn that. But parents, know who the good teachers are in your school, in your child's school. Advocate for those teachers. I want you to be able to go to the principal and say, hey, Miss So-and-so is a great teacher. Mr. So-and-so is a good teacher. Why are they not on the roster this year? And let them tell you. And if you say, well, if they decide to go someplace else, that's different. But as a parent, as a team member, you need to know. Okay? You need to understand that. Now, next thing, parents, building trust and relationship with your school. You must know how your child is being educated. You need to ask that question. Do your child need extended resources? Do your child need something that's called differentiated instruction? I'm going to say that again. Differentiated instruction. Teachers can switch around. What this means that teachers can switch around on how they grade your child or how much homework they give your child based upon if your child is in one of those situations where they have an IEP, which is an individualized educational plan, or if they're receiving special educational services. That means when they go to certain classes, the instruction should be a little different for them. They shouldn't be graded the same way. They shouldn't be looked to complete their work in the same time frame. Parents, you need to get up on that. Scaffolding, you need to understand what this term means. This is a method that breaks learning down into chunks. That's why we go first, second, third, fourth grade. What you learn in the first grade is going to help your child in the second grade. What your child learns in the second grade is going to help them in the third grade. That's called scaffolding. You're building upon each grade. Now, I'm going to jump over to high school because I see this in high school far too often, where some of our kids come to high school not prepared for high school. High school is not set up to mitigate back to the third or fourth grade. Drop the pen again. Parents, high school is not set up to mitigate back to the 3rd or 4th grade. Now, students coming into the 9th grade may be reading on a 4th and 5th grade level. That's a shame. Parents, we don't want that to happen because they're not going to come back and review stuff that they should learn in the 4th and 5th grade if they're in the 9th grade, because high school is not set up for that. So parents, that's something that you got to be on the lookout for, right? Next thing we need to know about graphic organization. Students learn in different ways, okay? So you have a visual learning. That means students learn by seeing, right? They see stuff. So that means the classroom should be set up, or the teacher that gives a lesson should be having visual effects for the students. Maybe sometimes they should be showing videos. They should be showing things on the smart board. Okay? Some students learn what we call auditorial, by hearing. So that means those type of students like the teacher to give instruction. So the teacher has to be pretty good at giving instruction. Well, we all know that. Well, I shouldn't say we all know, but sometimes set up in a classroom, the teacher may not be able to give instruction because he or she may not have control or classroom management skills set up. Parents, and that's something that you have to observe when you go to visit your child's class, to make sure that the teacher has the class under control. Now, talking about learning, we said visual. Visual means that there has to be something visual that your student needs to see. Auditorial means hearing. That means something that your students have to hear from the teacher instruction-wise. And another method is called kinesthetics. Some students learn by touching and feeling. So during that school day, there should be something that your student can touch, feel, break down, in order for their learning to take place. But the ideal situation is to know which learning style. And by the way, those are called learning styles. Visual, auditorial, kinesthetic, those are learning styles. Parents, you must understand what's your child's learning style. Now, as they get older and matriculate through the educational system, what they want to do is have a little bit of all three of those, right? Because I'm not going to say you can go to a classroom and one learning style is going to be more prevalent than the other because of who's teaching the class. But we have to do things outside of the class to get our students comfortable with those learning styles, right? Now, talking about that, when you send your kid to school this year and you set up those achievement goals or educational goals, parent, make sure that you tell them, we're going to review this every so many weeks. And I would say the first 5 weeks of school is very important for your child. It's a lot going on in those first 5 to 6 weeks of school. The kids are getting familiar with each other. The teachers are getting familiar with the students. The teacher is trying to make sure that they know how many students are going to show up every day. But parents, you have to let your child know that I'm not going to abandon you. We're going to do this together. We're going to review it. And I expect you to do the best that you can. You have to set the bar, parent. You got to let the student know that this is serious business. Yeah, I want you to have fun. I want you to enjoy it. But your education means a lot because we are looking to the future. We're not just looking right now. In order for you to do things as an adult, you have to get this basic education. So we want to make sure that we let the children know that you support them, right? Now, parents, and I'm going to talk about this, building trust and relationships. Parents, you got to understand this social media is big in schools. Oh, social media is big. Parents, if you have supplied some type of electronic device to your students, make sure you put rules and regulations around that electronic device. Parents, if you're not good at Facebook, Twitter, Kick, Instagram, I'm going to advise you to get down with it and get down with it quick. So you know what the limitations are. You know what your child should and should not be doing. Now, for most students, when my kids were young, I let them know, yeah, I'm buying this phone for you to use, but it's my phone. You can't lock me out of my own stuff. How can a student lock you out of their phone that you bought? No, parents, your job is to let them know, okay, I'm buying you this phone to use. I want you to communicate with me, but it ain't like you can do whatever you want with it. You're not out there being a bully, a cyber bully. You're not out there doing threats. So parents, make sure that you put a framework around these electronic devices so your student can use them responsibly. Next thing to know, when you take that electronic device to school, make sure you understand what the school rules are around electronic devices. Some schools permit them, some schools don't. I worked in a school where we allowed the students to use electronic devices during lunch. But we know they get it in. We know that they being sneaky. They using them in class. They using them in the bathrooms. So what we want to do is have the parents talk to the students. Parents, talk to your students about being responsible with these electronic devices. Let's teach them to use it in a responsible way. Let's teach them to be respectful, not to do it in a very disrespectful manner. And in some situations, the schools may have to confiscate the phone. Let the child know that the phone is not your life. You can live without a cell phone or a tablet, especially if you know what the rules are. And so parents, what we're talking about today is building this relationship, with a trusting relationship with the school. We talked about, parents, that you have an obligation, not only as a community person, but as a parent to your child, to partner with the school, to team up with the school. You have an opportunity to find out how your student is doing far before you get that phone call that says, oh, they're not doing too well or something happened. Parents, you can make your student the best student ever. Students need love and support. I'm going to say it again. Students need love and support. Most support must come from home. And mom, dad, guardian, if there are situations where you feel that your student is not getting all that he or she should be getting out of the school day, look for extended programs after school. Look to get your child some tutoring. Look to have your student grow educationally every year. There should be something that your student should be knowing, understanding, or doing that's different educationally every year. You have a right as a parent to expect this from your school. Don't let the schools off the hook. Be a willing and participating parent in your schools or your child's education, but be open-minded. And I'm going to say, parents, let's get the school year off to a great start. If you need to review this particular show again, please do so by all means. We're going to be on YouTube. We're going to be bringing more educational topics to you, but we felt that this was very important that you understand that you have a role to play in your child's educational success. And as the host of the show, Men, Family, and Education, I'm going to be doing my best to bring you these topics, give you some tips and techniques on what we could do to make your child's educational experience a great one. And not only that, but have a proud student at the end of the year, looking forward to graduation and taking it to the next level. And again, I'd like to thank all my listeners for your time, Don't change this station. Don't change this dial. Come back, stay with us, and we are going to give you more from this program. Again, I want you to have a great evening. This is Dr. Horace Williams from Men, Family, Education on the Go radio station, powering the voice of community and change. Have a good evening.